All right, well, I'm a little bit winded. Doing a few upgrades on the little Timberking 1220 here today, and I just figured I would show you guys, well, I suppose they're upgrades, but show you what all I was doing to try to spruce it up a little bit. Mostly it's just the log stops, and I took the log stops and had a lot of them fixed, a lot of them were bent, and then on top of having them fixed, I had them reinforced. So after we straightened them, we welded this angle on here, which I just call it a backbone. But you know, a lot of them, you actually see this one was one of the bent ones. You can see how it was bent. This one was really bad. So they always want to bend, you know, that direction against that flat. And so we put a little rib or a little backbone on them there to stiffen them up. I had a lot of these that I got with the mill, and when I got them, they were all rusted up and I had never used them. So I took all those up to the ag shop, you know, got them all broke loose. And again, I say up to the ag shop, this is all stuff I could have done myself, but I like to let them high school boys have an opportunity to work on it and learn about it too. So we got all of them broke loose, got them all put on, put reinforcements on pretty much all of them, I think. Now this one, it's not quite vertical. You see it's still got a bend to it, but that's why I put it down here at the far end, because I'll probably never use it anyway, but I want to have it there as an option. Now the other thing I had to do was I had to add more crossbars to put all these log stops in. The crossbars is just 1-inch cold rolled steel, and what I found putting them in was that coating that's on there that keeps it from rusting. You got to take that off, because this is such a tight tolerance. I could not for the life of me get them to go in at first. And I went and got a little grinder and a Dremel, and I was grinding out the inside of that thinking it was all rusted up. But just as soon as I took that coating off the steel, man, went right to it. So let's see, I added in, I tried to put a stop at every single spot. Now most of the time I won't use all these, but one of the big deals about it, and I actually just realized I got to change this one because I doubled up cams here, and I don't want to really have, it doesn't hurt to have a cam there, but it doesn't have a tapered top on it. See, this one's got the tapered top so that if a log hits it, it'll slide off, right? And having this one here, I just threw that on there the other day just to have a stop. Having that one there, of course, the log can hang on it, but I mean, I guess I can take that. If it really bothers me, I can just bring my torch out here. Whoops. I'll bring my torch out here and just knock it off, because I've got double cams here and I've got double cams down here, and I just put those last two in just as a placeholder, really, just to use that rod so I didn't lose it. So here's the big thing that I was excited about, was getting more log stops here close together. Because one thing I do that I think a lot of people don't is I will take short stock, very short stock, and I didn't have stops here before, I don't think. Yeah, I think that's a new piece of steel there. I didn't have stops there. I had stops here at the start, and then I had one here that was bent all to crap anyway. So these are two new ones that are put in right here. So without having that middle stop in between, I only had a log stop every 5 feet. And really it's not every 5 feet, because if you try to put a 5-foot long log on here, it's going to sit across those two beams, and you got to have the stops all the way up for them to hold it. Now, if it's a small log, you can't do that. You got to fold the stops down at an angle, and then if they're folded down at an angle, they're not holding on the far end as well as they should be. So, or this one, even if it's 5-footer, this one folds out this way, and now it doesn't work. You got to have like a 6-foot log. But now I can cut between these two bunks is 26 inches outside to outside. So I can really take stuff down to as short as 3 feet and still be able to hold it with the log stops. I've got some pieces over here, this red oak, and that's why this hasn't been cut yet. This was red oak that I recovered out of my neighbor's yard. A power company come through and cut it down because it was dead standing by the power lines. And they blocked it up into these massive pieces that no man can rightfully move. And they're about 40 inches long. So I sawed the first one when I got it home, and it was torture because I didn't have enough stops. But now I can get all those hopefully picked up and cut up. I say that whenever I feel like I have time to do that sort of work. And really I could put I could put at least 2 on there, maybe 3, because there's a couple of them that are like 40 inches, and those would actually fit between the wider gap. So, I mean, yeah, going between the wider gap I think is right at 36 or 40 inches. Oh, yeah, 36. So see, I could actually set, you know, 1, 2, 3. I could set at least 3 of them on at a time, and then just walk the mill all the way down and cut through all of them. You know, I wouldn't have to do just one at a time. So again, that's an advantage, having more stops, and I've done that before. I've actually done before where I have 2 logs on the mill at the same time, and just go all the way down and then turn them both, go all the way down, turn them both, you know, versus trying to do one at a time. I don't really know if it saves me any time. I guess it saves a pass on the saw head, a couple passes, but that's it. Anyway, a couple things to mention about this. Again, I mentioned that you got to take that coating off for sure, but the other thing is with Timberking, they made these rods here, they're factory rods. They drive all the way in till they hit the back of this beam, but there's not a port there. So you can't drive them back out, okay? I have no idea what year this mill is. Early 2000s, I think. I had quite the time pulling a couple of those out because they were, you know, kind of seized in there, and I had no way to get behind them to drive them out. So, I mean, if you really can't get it out, knock it in half with a cutting torch, I guess, and you'd be able to drive this piece out, but you're still gonna have a hard time pulling that one out. So I would suggest, and maybe they've done this on their newer models, but I would suggest go ahead and porting this side also. I mean, it's gonna be a few more sleeves, even if they just cut a hole in the deck but don't actually put a sleeve in it, I don't care. You know, just a way that gives us an option when we're doing stuff out here after we've bought them and own them to help hammer that stuff apart. You know, just an idea. So those were difficult. A couple of them were difficult to get out. I've got one here. One of these. One of them is bent. I think it's this one. Yeah, this one's got a little S-curve bend in it. So you can see my my log stop actually doesn't want to, it's turning the whole thing. The log stop doesn't want to slide. So I need to replace that one. I need to get me another piece of just 1 inch and just pull that one out of there and replace it, because it's a couple bucks for that 1 inch to get it from the ag shop. Because that's going to drive me nuts if I go try to use that log stop and then it won't slide. You know, that's going to be infuriating. So I'll have to get that fixed. Yeah. So I think that's it really, as far as, like I said, you know, the upgrades that I wanted to mention. It's nothing special, nothing fancy, but I wanted to talk about some of the things that I ran into with it that were a little bit difficult. I have not taken these stops off yet. These still need to come off and have a backbone put on them, potentially. That one's got a little bit of a bend in it, but it's usually pretty protected because it's right here by the saw head, so I don't get too rambunctious with it. And I know a lot of people say, you know, they've never bent them, they don't have any problems with them, but because I roll my logs with the tractor and I pick up on it, it tends to pick that log up and then it gets on top of the log stops, which is what bends them so bad. So yeah, anyway, cool for me. I'll probably hardly ever use these things. I'll sit there in the mud and rust up, which I'm working on another project to get this mill up out of the mud and get it up on a trailer. So we'll talk about that as that project progresses, I guess. But for now, I just wanted to mention, you know, adding stops, straightening stops, stiffening stops. And yeah, just wanted to share with you guys what I did and a couple things I ran into. Hopefully it'll help you all out working on your sawmills.